76.
One of these things is not like the other. This is the 76 that was pulled out that was not similar to the others, and Mr. Taylor is recognized to explain 76.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, 76 on your chart is in the middle of the DEI train. So there's a lot of DEI amendments before, and I guess there's a whole bunch afterwards. So this is something completely different. This is about South Carolina State University. And the amendment that is up here is, and I'll give you a little background, it's to actually forgive a loan that the state made to SC State. On June 30th of 2016, the South Carolina Budget and Control Board issued a $6 million operating loan to SC State University, assisting them during that difficult financial period that they were in. The university has consistently paid its $355,000 annual payment due every September 30th, and they've paid it on time. As a demonstration of good faith, it is improved its financial position. So on January 28th of this past year in 2022, SC State paid an additional $1 million on the principal of that loan. After the university's annual payment on September 30th, the remaining principal balance on that loan is $2,700,000. This particular amendment calls for us to forgive that principal and balance. Folks, I'm going to take a couple of moments to explain some things. For those of you, many of you weren't here during the great debacle of 2015, 16, and 17, in which we all looked at this legislature of how screwed up SC State was. It was a mess. There was all kinds of problems that we found. This legislature had some really very difficult lifting to do to decide what to do with SC State. There were all kinds of issues on the table. What we ended up doing, don't hold me exact dates here, but in about 2017, we wiped out the Board of Trustees, took them all out, and put in a whole new Board of Trustees. And they did a great job. And some of the originals from 2018 are still on the board. For those of you in the Low Country, you know, remember the late Charlie Way, that notable Charleston developer. He was asked, not before his passing, he was asked what was his greatest achievement. And as a developer, he had many great achievements. Would you not agree, for those in the Low Country? Shaking your heads, yes, thank you. You know what he said his greatest achievement was? Being a trustee and the chairman of the trustees at South Carolina State University and being there for the turnaround. So that's an amazing statement from a fellow who had a lifelong legacy of accomplishments. So recently, I have the privilege of serving on Ways and Means and the Higher Education Subcommittee with the great Gilda Cobb-Hunter. Yeah, stop. She always says stop. And Nathan Ballantyne is our chairman. I made it a pledge this year to go visit a lot of the universities and go look. I went to the Citadel, and I wanted to see the facilities. They come asking for money. Well, I'm sort of that old reporter guy. I got to go see it with my eyes and take me around and spend time with all of that. Well, I went to SC State. It was my second trip. If you go from the Citadel to SC State, I want to give you a few impressions. I will urge you in all of this to go see it for yourself at some time. Just call them and go down there and take a look if you've not been on the campus. And I never had been. I'd driven by it. The campus, when you come in, is pretty nice. They really maintain the campus. It looks good. It's the facilities that are just horrible in many cases. Honest to gosh, folks, I was embarrassed for the state of South Carolina. You know, this is an HBCU. They do so many good things. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I have learned along the way. I want to give you this. What I really want to do here for you this afternoon for a few moments is to give you a reset. For those of you who were here back in the 2017, 16, 15 era, I mean, we all had a mindset. You know, you couldn't pick up the newspaper without hearing about SC State. The Clyburn Transportation Center, quote, missing money, all the headlines about all that stuff. Guess what? Our Legislative Audit Council actually audited their books. There wasn't a penny missing. But you didn't see that correction along the way. It kind of got overlooked, didn't it? Like things do. The headline was there, but the follow-up wasn't there. There has been a change in the leadership, not only from the board level of trustees, but it's gone through a series of presidents along the way. Representative Cobb Hunter could tell you.
Sergeant, if you'd assist me, if we have order, we got a dull roar. Ms. Cobb Hunter wants to make sure you hear what Mr. Taylor's saying. Dogs and cats are sleeping together here at the State House today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Gilda Cobb Hunter, my wing woman here on this whole thing. So, but I want to tell you, I'm very impressed. I think all of us are. Anybody that meets President Conyers, he is a retired Army colonel, came from the Pentagon. He is a no-nonsense, get-her-done guy. He's formed a great cabinet of leaders there. It's really quite impressive. I spent 5 hours touring buildings. That's a long time to tour buildings. And I saw some stuff that would make you really sad. You know, there's buildings where you know, the ADA and the wheelchair, you can't get. There's only one elevator in a building to get people up, and you have to go around the building, go up an elevator to get there. I saw classrooms. I've told some of my colleagues I saw classrooms that in Aiken we have wiped out and hauled away elementary schools that had better facilities than what you see at SC State. And yet, I think they do a heck of a good job of keeping up with what they do. It isn't like they slack on the maintenance, but the buildings are in horrible shape. I want to give you a couple of examples. Look, their big ask, would be, by my own calculation, forget what they say, about $195 million in capital improvements to bring that place up to speed. $195 million. If it does your heart any good, in Tennessee, I have my notes here, in Tennessee this year, their governor, for their HBCU, the Governor Lee, he proposed $250 million to fix their historic, a Republican governor, I might add, to fix theirs. So look, there is really problems here. You have, I'm going to give you a couple. Turner Hall, the home of the College of Education, Criminal Justice Department, the General Education Program. It was built in 1928. So it's 94 years old. Largest education center on the campus. It addresses minority teachers and their teacher program. This is not a historic building. You know, there's some like at the Citadel or at USC or at Clemson. These are wonderful historic buildings. This is not a historic building. This is just an old, crappy building, and it needs to be fixed. The Whitaker Library, let me tell you about this one. This is great. This current building was built in '68, so it's only 55 years old. But I went down in the basement, and they said, "You sure you want to do that?" They told me about it. I said, "Sure, take me down there." So here's the deal. Because of flooding issues, the flooding can get up to your knees. When it rains really hard, the basement of the library floods. I saw pictures. I saw water lines up to here. Holy mackerel. It's a state university. Anyway, it goes on and on. There's a whole bunch of stuff. You know, do you know this, that they once had 5,000 students. Through their troubled times, it got down to a pretty low number. You can help me with that, Gilda Cobb, but it's up to about 2,650 students right now. Get this. Last year, they had 3,000 applications to be the freshman class last year. You know how much it is this year? They have over 10,000. So someone said earlier, people, vote with their feet and all that, and we all know that. Guess what? People get it. They're coming there. They see it. They're recruiting from out of state too, in Florida and places. I know they were going down to Miami because they had so much interest down there in Miami to come up. 85% of their students are South Carolinians. These are our people, and they have a horrible facility. So I'm going to, in a moment, pull this amendment down, not asking for your vote on it. What I'm asking you to do is to know that we have to have a reset here in our brain.
Ms. Taylor, that's your 10 minutes, sir.
I'll just take another because I know Ms. Cobb-Hunter wants to say something. So I'll take another 10, please, sir. Thank you.
Granted.
I won't take the whole 10, Mr. Bannister. All right. So here's the thing. Get a reset in your brain. If you remember any of those things about SC State, wipe them out. Look at the new SC State. It's a heck of a good deal, and we need to invest money in it, and I hope that we're doing some. By the way, we put in some, according to our speaker, when he was Ways and Means Chairman, he told me last year we put in some $33 million. Pretty good for 1 year. We got to do the same, year after year after year. They need about $100 million to get her going, okay? So we're not going to do that in 1 year. Sir, I'll take any questions if there are some.
Ms. Cobb-Hunter is recognized for a question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Taylor, this is going to shock you, but this is a friendly question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know there are probably people watching this who can't believe their eyes, who are just shocked and amazed?
And why would that be?
Because you are standing here at this well saying very positive things, did you know, about South Carolina State. And there are people who are no longer in this chamber who made all kinds of comments about your motives, shall we say. And I'm just saying, would you be surprised to know that you are probably creating some real waves? Because people are shocked. They're probably still getting up off the floor that you are standing at this well saying these positive things. Would that surprise you?
I guess. I don't know. I can't figure out people a lot of times,
And did you know that I am very glad to hear you, because for so many years, the proponents and the advocates for South Carolina State University have mainly been members of the Democratic Caucus and the Legislative Black Caucus. Mm-hmm. So, we are all just kind of like, whoa, is that Bill Taylor? Kind of leaning to the left to make sure that you are. But I really wanted to just wrap up my questions by asking you to just, if you would, say again the piece, because we've heard so much about debt forgiveness and loan forgiveness and not forgiving student loans, but it's okay to forgive PPP loans and all of that. And as you pointed out, this loan was back in 2016-17, and there are none of the folk who are in here now who were here then. And there are people who are in here now who were a little irritated when you said that the university was in trouble. But did you know that that's the same issue we had to deal with back then? Mm-hmm. People saying, oh, they're okay. So I'm just wanting to make sure people understand that the university, it was a total of $6 million that was loaned to them. And did you know that the university, through all of its rebuilding, has gotten that $6 million down to the figure that we see here? So do you think that in your caucus that there would be a difference of opinion, shall we say, in not necessarily doing this today, but at some point recognizing the strides that the university has made and feeling like this would be a way, just like we've seen in here rewards for what some of us perceive as bad behavior, that this might be perceived in the event the body decides at some point to do this, that this would be seen as a reward for good behavior. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. I can't speak for the Republican caucus. I try not to speak for anybody else in here because I have no idea what their feelings might be. My goal today was to stand here and tell you this is the new South Carolina State University, and we ought to treat them like we do Clemson or USC or Citadel or Francis Marion, any other school. I mean, these are particularly South Carolinians, 85% of the population, and they do some great stuff. By the way, just so you know, they have $40 million in their reserve fund. Now it's committed. $40 million. They didn't have, my dad would say, a pot to, before. They didn't have any money at all, right? They were broke. They got $40 million in their reserve fund. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. My final comment to you would be, do you know the only area of disagreement I would take with you is that this process that the current President Conyers is there building upon what was done by that board that was put in place, and the former President James Clark, who also had a large role in making some tough calls, some very unpopular calls, that when we talk about credit, I like to make sure that credit is given where credit is due.
Yes.
Do you know that I think it would be a mistake to ascribe all of the success that South Carolina State is enjoying to one person?
That was not my intent.
Okay.
I was just using that quote because that struck me from somebody that's a developer to say that was one of his life's achievement. Do you know also that Doug Gant is the current chairman there, and he is from Aiken County in North Augusta, and he is a great guy and on fire for this university.
And do you know Mr. Bill Hickson continuously reminds me of that fact?
Yes.
Me and Mr. Gant have a special relationship. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate Mr. Taylor taking the question. And just one final question.
Sorry.
Did you know that you will have an opportunity to share your appreciation with the former president as well? Because you and I are both in the 2nd Congressional District, and the former president, James Clark, is currently seeking a spot on the Aeronautics Commission, and think he would do just as good a job there as he did at South Carolina State.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ms. Taylor, I know it breaks your heart. Ms. Davis has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Mr. Taylor, for bringing to light some of the things that are going on at South Carolina State University. When you visited, did you happen to visit the nuclear engineering lab?
I did not.
I have visited that lab, and it is very impressive. I suggest that you go. Did you know that South Carolina State is the only university in the state of South Carolina that offers an undergraduate degree in nuclear engineering?
I did not know that.
It's a very impressive program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I may, last thing I'll tell you is that when I visited the sports area, this was something. I want this visual to stick in your brain for just a minute. Coach Pugh, national champion football coach, right? National champion. His office is the size of a walk-in closet. And he had to abandon it because there was water leakage and mold. They made him move out of his office. A national champion. Someone told me that Dabo's is 1,800 square feet. Coach Pugh, a national champion coach, has one that's the size of a walk-in closet. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ms. McDaniel has a question. Ms. Taylor has stepped away. Ms. McDaniel is recognized on Amendment 76.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Taylor, since you were talking about Coach Pugh, you do recognize that his first championship was at Fairfield Central High School, right? Just want to make sure you're aware of that. And then my second one, Mr. Speaker, since Mr. Taylor so eloquently talked about South Carolina State relative to all of the other schools, I just want to know whether or not South Carolina State is funded at the same level in the budget as the other schools. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Taylor moves to table.